TNCRadio.LIVE, your commercial driver navigation station.
Good afternoon. This is TNCRadio.LIVE, and this is the Truckers Network Radio Show with your host, Shelley Johnson.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Yes, this is the Truckers Network Radio Show on TNCRadio.LIVE, where we offer the news, sports, weather, traffic, and entertainment that professional drivers want to hear. You know, many of our drivers are veterans and very committed to the needs of veterans. One group that is helping veterans in Texas is Veterans Partners of Texas, that provides peer-to-peer support, employment resources, legal aid, and recreational services to our veterans. Joerob of Veterans Partners of Texas is with us today to talk about their group and what they're doing to help our heroes. Joe served in the Air Force from 1978 to 1982. He was the first Tactical Air Command 552 AWACS Airman Maintenance Professional of the Year in 1979. In 1981, he was assigned to wing training to rewrite the training programs. Welcome, Joe. Thank you so much for being on the show today with us.
Thank you, Shelley. It's great to be here with you.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your organization and what you're doing for our veterans. I think it's awesome.
Well, this is truly a grassroots organization. We, a lot of us have been together since the summer of 2014. We worked out of the MHMR building, who had a peer center, and then later worked out of the local VFW. And then we're blessed last year to be able to move into a building that is actually being furnished to us by a local businessman. And we're, as we like to say, we're in our own house, and we feel like we're going to be able to do a whole lot more for veterans.
What sorts of needs are you encountering with our veterans right now?
Well, right now, there's a whole lot of peer support. With COVID and different things happening, a lot of people just aren't getting out. We have seen that this has caused a whole lot of stress and tension on people. You know, when you're not having daily contact, especially in a environment where you're in the room together, it really tends to increase a person's anxiety and especially their depression. And, you know, the surveys have been done to say that they believe that this makes the triggers that happen when people have PTSD, makes them more prevalent.
It really can be. I mean, it's so isolating. This pandemic has created such a problem for so many people. How are you able to help veterans, and how were you able to do that when you weren't able to do a lot of things face to face? That had to have been hard last year, especially.
Well, we did a whole lot of helping over the telephone. But as the year was progressing, we have a 2,800 square foot building. Half of it, if you will, is food and clothing pantry. We have some exercise equipment where people can come in and exercise. You know, they can come in and wear their mask. If they don't, and once they get in the door, if they don't want to wear it, you know, we try to leave that up to them, but just kind of go by, you know, who's in there with you. If you're sitting next to somebody on a bike, they got a mask on, hey, you know, maybe it might be a good thing just to have it on, just to help everybody feel good. We've got a day room set up. We've got tables set up for checkers and playing dominoes. We've got a television with a DVD player. And we've always got volunteers, a lot of whom are veterans. They're at the building ready to just visit with somebody. A lot of times somebody just wants to talk, be heard for a little bit.
Well, and I think that that's been such a challenge for so many veterans coming back. They don't have someone who can relate to what they're going through. And you're providing an area where they can be around people who've been where they've been.
Yes. When you've got someone who's been in the service, we call them just service members, doesn't matter which branch, but and you're recently released, it's a lot easier to find common ground with that veteran. If that veteran's had some issues himself, as I've had, then oftentimes that veteran that comes in will make a connection even faster, because they said, hey, man, yeah, I see a counselor for this same thing. Or, a lot of times what happens with veterans, and especially if they can get a small group together and visit, they realize that, hey, I'm not the only one feeling this. I'm not the only one this is happening to.
Yeah, that's got to be important. As they do the drawdown in Afghanistan, and begin bringing everybody home, have you seen, and I know it's hard to measure right now because of COVID and you guys are just getting started, but have you seen an increase in the number of people who have come out of combat situations and trying to find their way back home again?
Yeah, we've seen a few of them. We're only, I think it's like 70 miles from Fort Hood, the Army base. Okay. And a lot of veterans, or a lot of military service members they separate from Fort Hood, become veterans in the local areas, and a lot of times they're looking for places where they're not going to be in the flow of traffic, if you will. Right. We live in a rural area. Our primary service is to rural veterans. But, the thing is, everyone needs a place to go. And it's only been in the last 10, maybe 12 years that this has been addressed overall by the VA, by the government, just whomever, and that we need places for these guys to go and reacclimate. Someplace to go and be around people who've suffered some of the same injuries. One of the big things that's being addressed at this point in time, and will go on forever, I believe, is the effects of moral injury.
Oh.
What is moral injury?
Yeah, what is that about?
Well, it's where there was a traumatic event that maybe you didn't actually participate, but you were right there and witnessed it. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a quick example. Tank commander, he's posting up near this girls' school in Baghdad. Mm-hmm. The girls are age 4 to 7. Mm-hmm. He posts up every day. Sometimes they get out around the tank. There's a trash can normally by the building they park in front of. One day they pull up. The girls a lot of them are at recess playing soccer and just doing whatever, and they pull up, and just about the time he's popping his hatch, there's an explosion. No one in the tank was injured, and the tank suffered minor injuries. But that trash can that was normally by the building had been moved. It had explosives, and all of that ricocheted off the tank and killed and wounded a large number of these little girls.
Oh, no.
So this tank commander is saying, oh, my God, what if I'd just been looking? What if I didn't park the same place? There's all these things, because he's looking at, hey, this was my fault. This is, right. They were killed. Morally, this is not where I live.
Yeah.
And that has caused him a number of problems since he's gotten home.
Oh, it would. And it's kind of what humans do. They blame themselves, and they do the what if game. When it was not something that they could help or prevent, it just happened.
Yeah, there's a number of examples that I could give you, some very graphic. But the thing is, the consensus now is that there have been times when people have been treated, in a PTSD concept and treatment.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Where it might not have been so much PTSD, they need to be looking at maybe that was more of a moral injury. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we're less capable of dealing with a moral injury than we would be a traumatic event that happened to ourselves.
Yeah. The amount of guilt that a person would carry, it would be very, very hard. I'd like to explore more of this in our next segment, certainly, because I really think, personally, I find it amazing that the military hasn't looked into this more thoroughly so much sooner, because our vets definitely need mental health assistance, because what they experience is not what they would normally experience anywhere else. And it really puts them in a terrible position when they come back and try to assimilate and deal with all the emotions that they've had. We're speaking with Joerob of Veteran Partners of Texas. This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly. We're going to be back with more with Joerob coming up, so definitely stay tuned.
This blog on TNCRadio.LIVE is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. 5 best scenic drives for truck drivers. One of the many benefits of being a truck driver is traveling the beautiful United States. Truck drivers spend their life on the road. Although they may get tired of driving, there's still routes and attractions most look forward to seeing. Whether it be cruising down the coast of California, driving in the Smoky Mountains, or passing through the Arizona desert, truck drivers all have their personal favorites. Here are the 5 most beautiful scenic drives rated by truck drivers. Pacific Coast Highway. The Pacific Coast in California, also called Highway 1, is one of the most iconic scenic drives in the United States. Driving along the Pacific Coast reminds you of a movie or TV show. It's about 650 miles long and runs from Capistrano Beach in Orange County to Leggett in northern Mendocino. San Juan Skyway. San Juan Skyway, a scenic byway in Colorado, is known for its million-dollar views. The byway goes across the San Juan National Forest and has provided truckers with beautiful views of the mountains and landscape. Beartooth Highway. Beartooth Highway in Montana is a 68-mile byway that runs through southwest Montana and northwest Wyoming and goes into Yellowstone National Park. Along this drive, you'll see one of the most diverse ecosystems accessible by vehicle in the United States. Keep in mind that the scenic highway closes in the winter due to adverse winter conditions and typically opens up on Memorial Day weekend. I-64 in West Virginia. West Virginia has some of the most beautiful landscapes on the East Coast. Driving down I-64 in West Virginia feels like you're in a painting. If you have time to stop along your truck route, check out Tamarack, located just off I-64 in Beckley, West Virginia. Tamarack is a unique culture center with art from local artisans and delicious food. If you want the full Appalachian experience, check out Tamarack. Utah's Route 12. Utah's Route 12 is one of the most scenic routes in the United States. It's often called the All-American Road. Also, there are 2 national parks at each end of the road, Bryce Canyon and Capitol Reef, and many other unique scenic views. This info blog was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
TNCRadio.LIVE, your commercial driver navigation station. You're listening to the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. I'm Shelley Johnson here with Tom Kelly. We're talking to Joerob of Veteran Partners of Texas, a great organization who's helping our veterans. Joe, why do you think that the military has been so slow to address mental health issues for our returning veterans? I find it shocking, personally.
Well, there's 2 things you can count on with the military. Hurry up and wait. And if there's something needs to be done, they're going to drag their ass.
Mm-hmm.
Just, being perfectly frank, I don't think that they've always had people in the right places who took an interest in identifying, there was shell shock, there's all these different things. And then, it came to a point where they said, okay, we're going to just kind of call this, post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Right.
And,
they give it a label.
I think the problem has been, financing. A lot of times the VA can't get money, or the military even. either one, they can't get the financing for a lot of research. They're having to live in the now. We got these people we got to see. We got this equipment we need. These type things. But it just seems like that. Not only the military, but the VA have just taken way too long to address so many of these issues.
Oh, they really have. And you would think with so many decades of experience with these issues, dating back to like World War I, when they called it shell shock, that there would have been a priority, a budget set aside, because our veterans are serving our country, and it feels like we abandon them when they come back.
And a lot of them feel that way.
Yeah.
They're put out here on these front lines, behind the scenes, in the air, whatever, and they're doing what they signed up to do. They decided that they were willing to put their lives on the line 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
We veterans made that decision. And a lot of times you're going to hear us veterans talking about the fact the contract we signed had no expiration date. Only we have that. So why aren't they doing it? I believe with each conflict and war and so forth, there have been people who have come out of it looking to find an answer to some of these type questions. But I believe it really just not going that quickly and not being addressed very well until a lot of the major institutions and universities in our country decided to say, hey, we need to look at this. This is something that will benefit our communities by helping these people. If you can understand it more, you can deal with it more.
Exactly. It's almost like the people in the military who are in charge of these decisions don't seem to be in touch or in tune. And the kind of commitment that the veteran and the contract they sign, it's a lifetime commitment, basically. That should be the same commitment from the military. They have made an ultimate sacrifice, put their lives on the line for our country. We owe them. We owe veterans.
And I as a veteran, I definitely agree. I recently submitted a survey to Washington, D.C. that I received in the mail, talking about why hasn't the government made veterans a minority classification. I mean, we're the smallest group.
There you go. And you'd receive some benefits, certainly.
It would increase a lot of benefits.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of people who come home, but some of them, a part of them, never came back. It's still over there.
Yeah, yeah.
Physical injuries that they had, things that affected them mentally. Like we were talking earlier, the effects of moral injury on a person. Mm-hmm. It can be devastating.
And Joerob, when we were also talking offline, we mentioned that there are a lot of people who are truck drivers now after having served in the military, and so a lot of them I assume are listening as well. Is there a central place if you're a veteran truck driver, you're driving down the road right now, you'd like to reach out and talk to somebody about whatever's on your mind, is there a good place for them to call or go to on a website, or what's something that they can do if they wanted to reach out and talk to another vet?
Well, one of the things is they could go online to Connect a Vet.
Connect a Vet.
It's a very good program. I go on there from time to time, just checking out the website and have a chat. I like to, things like this, I like to try to keep up with.
Mm-hmm.
And this sounds going to sound terrible, but there's also a mental crisis health line. The 800 number everybody's supposed to call during a mental crisis. But to reach a veteran or someone trained to speak with veterans, it needs to, after the number's been called, it is option 1. And that's not always put out there. They just say to call. But it's option one, to speak with someone who's either is a veteran or trained to speak with veterans.
Okay.
And
well, this is good information.
Yeah, that is good. And that's the National Crisis Hotline?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an 800 number, and it's everywhere. I can't believe I don't have something in front of me.
Well, I do. I'll pull it up here in just a second, and we've got it on our website.
Well, that's definitely something we can put on our website too. I think it would be very important.
Yeah, it's there under trucker. It's under trucker help under the hotlines. We have it right there.
And so often
important.
a veteran.
Yeah, it's there under trucker. It's under trucker help under the hotlines. We have it. My bad. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I think a lot of the veterans become truckers because it gives them that opportunity to isolate but still maintain a degree of contact.
Right.
That's interesting.
So often a veteran just wants someone to take a few minutes and just listen to what's on his mind or what he's feeling. The peer-to-peer system in this country has made great strides in helping get with veterans who in the past had been unwilling to visit or talk about anything. But the peer-to-peer, when you're talking to someone else who's been in the military and, maybe seen some of the same places you've seen, maybe been in the ditch, but you're a quarter of a mile down the road or something. Being able to talk like that on a peer-to-peer basis has shown to make just a marvelous amount of improvements in the people who isolate. You've got traumatic brain injury, you've got PTSD, you got anxiety, you've got depression, you've got moral injury, and so much of it is intertwined. I'm an instructor for Texas Veterans Commission, their military veteran peer network, basic peer support. And the system was revamped quite a bit last year. And it is really good to see because now there is a section addressing this moral injury.
Until you mentioned it, I had not heard that term before.
It needs to get out there more. The VA, truthfully, from what I understand on a wide-scale basis, this really started becoming, late 2016, 2017 or so. So when that first really became something that the VA was talking about. And they've got a few programs in place. But sometimes you've got a veteran, he's come out of the military, he's gone to the VA, done his due diligence, and feels like he's been demeaned, pushed aside, crapped on, and decides, I'm never going back to the VA, even though he could be eligible for some health care and different things.
Right. Yep.
That's why what we do, I believe, is so important, because we reach out and touch people. But maybe even more important, we're there for people to come to when they're ready.
Right.
Just come in, start, what you do, you make a friend and you listen to them, and you make sure that if they're able to say whatever they feel like at any given time. And normally you're going to talk to somebody who has really bad problems. You're going to talk to them quite a bit before they ever get to the point of mentioning any of those.
Sure.
But it's on their minds.
And it's so very important. I definitely want to cover more of what you're doing for veterans. I think this is absolutely essential, and I wanted to thank you for what you're doing. We're talking with Joerob of Veteran Partners of Texas here on the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. Stay tuned for more to find out what this organization's doing coming up. Driving 11 hours a day, 7 days a week can be emotionally and physically exhausting. Sleep is a very important part of a long-haul truck driver's life. Being well-rested and alert makes driving a lot safer for both the trucker and other drivers on the road. Getting enough sleep may sound easier than it seems. Living on the road makes it difficult to get the recommended 8 hours of sleep. In fact, it's common for truckers to not get 8 hours of sleep due to the 11-hour work shift. To help, we've put together 5 tips to help truckers stay awake while driving. Take vitamins. One way truckers can stay awake while driving is by taking vitamins. Not only are vitamins good energy boosters, they have tons of other health benefits too. Vitamin B helps with fatigue, depression, mood boosting, and muscle weakness. Consider adding vitamins to your morning routine. Eat healthy. An unhealthy diet has a huge impact on one's overall health. Dr. Jennifer Sachek says, our bodies rely on the energy and nutrients we get from food. So what you eat and how and when you eat it can either drain you or sustain you. It might be more convenient to stop at a fast food restaurant or truck stop, but constantly eating junk food drains your energy. Take a nap. Before you hit the road, consider taking a short 20-minute nap. Several studies have shown that a quick nap immediately increases alertness and gives a boost in cognitive performance. Stay hydrated. Water has many health benefits. One benefit is reducing the chance of being fatigued. Drinking a pint of cold water is a great way to refresh yourself and stay more alert. Listen to upbeat music. Listening to upbeat music will have you tapping your foot, singing along, and staying alert in no time. Avoid listening to relaxing music or audiobooks. Those tend to make drivers more relaxed and sleepy. Truckers have a very demanding job. In order to deal with the stress and demands, it's very important to get the right amount of sleep. Hopefully these 5 tips will help you stay awake while driving.
Need a better driving job? Go to TNCRadio.LIVE/driverinfo.
You're listening to the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. I'm Shelley Johnson here with Tom Kelly. We're talking to Joerob of Veteran Partners of Texas. This is a wonderful organization who's helping the veterans, the rural veterans in Joe's area. Joe, could you kind of describe what are you doing in your area for veterans? You were telling me how many counties you cover. Wow, that's a lot.
Well, we're covering Limestone, Freestone, Navarra, and Falls County ongoing, and we help people in other counties. One of the things that we're doing is we're providing a lot of peer support. We just had a new flyer made up by one of our volunteers who is working on his bachelor's degree in social services geared toward veterans. And on it, we were looking at it over and we figured out we had missed something. Here's a lot of the problem with veterans. They don't know what they're eligible for. So we added to our new flyer, let us help you identify your benefits. Because so many people don't know that they even have any.
Right.
You've got to get that DD 214. You've got to look it over. You got to see if there's any additions to it. But and the rules have changed so much. We helped a woman in Pennsylvania. We were going for getting her dependent income coverage, which maxes out at $350 a month. However, while that was going on, she went into a review court, and it was all said and done. Her husband, who had died of a condition directly related to Agent Orange, but he was on a ship in the Gulf there at Vietnam. They reclassified 5 ships. His was one of them. His type of ailment, disease, was one that is specifically happens to people with exposure to Agent Orange. So not only did this lady be able to get benefits, they went back retroactive and did a number of things, and she's drawing more than $1,000 a month.
Excellent.
We couldn't get her any benefits, health or anything, but we're talking about a woman that after her husband died, she lost her home. She just lost so much.
Sure.
Because we have a little exercise area at our peer center. No weights. It's all stuff like a Bowflex and a Total Gym and a couple stationary bikes and stuff like that. So people come in and get rid of a little stress, or just if they enjoy working out.
Right.
We've got a food pantry and a clothing pantry. So if people are having some problems, we can help them. One of our biggest groups that we help are those people who make good money, but something happens, there's an injury, and mom or dad or both are out of work for a month. There is no stopgap for these people.
Right.
And we try to step in and help them. We have a partner that could possibly help them with the rent and electricity. We have a partner that will help with legal problems, but they do not do criminal. It's all, no criminal. But that's a lot of help right there. And it's done for little to nothing. We in our day room, we've got an area that's set up just as a quiet place. Come in, sit, and visit. Come in, have a cup of coffee. Just do whatever you want. Play some dominoes. And right now, the project I'm working on is I'm trying to get us computers. And we're going to set up a computer lab. One of those computers will be dedicated to doing certifications online. In the past, we helped the lady. She had gotten a new job, but if she was not Word certified in 30 days, she was going to lose her job. So she came to us. We had, where we were at that time, we had computers set up, and we found there's a place online for her to go and get Word certified that didn't cost her anything to do it. All it cost was the certificate. So she became our first. And what we do now is if you come in and you want to go online and you want to find some certification, most of it's free. Go in, get it done. And when you've completed it, we will pay for your certificate.
Wow.
We want to help you succeed. We want to give you a way to do this. Even OSHA has a certificate program. You get your certificate, you go to work under somebody that is OSHA licensed, and you move up if you want to. There's so much like this that could be happening for our veterans. And we're trying, right there, we're located like 1.2 miles south of Mexia, Texas. But we got just a wonderful group of volunteers. Like I said, most of us have been together. Probably of the 13 right now, 8 of us have been together since 2014. And we all know each other. We know each other's strengths, weaknesses. And we've got people who are veterans and we got people who aren't. But they have it in their heart to help veterans. And, it's a wonderful thing to see. I get emotional every now and then. I go in my office and close the door. But just thinking about these, all these people who want to help so bad that they give of their time and their resources sometimes. One of our volunteers picked us up some file cabinets today. Said, no, that's on me. I'm going to take care of this because we need some file cabinets. This is the type of people I'm talking about. I get the opportunity to work with.
And that's so wonderful. And you wish that those kind of people were, and I'm sure there are, but more of them in the government, more of them who are making decisions for our military, because it doesn't seem like the information, like you're giving the resources for the vets and so forth, it's not out there. I mean, they don't know a program's available. They don't know maybe a benefit's available. They're not going to go for it. And they're being shorted of what we owe them as veterans.
And the VA is opening up more and more service centers where they've got, peer labs, all kinds of different things to help people. They've got peer specialists who have, they've gotten their college degree and they've been trained on how to do a lot of this. And it's helping. It really is. But there's just so much more. What we need, and it's one of the things that we're working on being just to the best of our abilities, is some way where there is a clearinghouse of information where you can go to this place and say, okay, I need help in Limestone County, or I need help in Val Verde. And if there's nobody there to help, here's a list of people you can call to get to help you. There's just not really a central place like that. And I know it would be difficult for everyone to get together, but I don't think it'd be impossible. I think it could be done. And that, when a service member's getting out of the military, hey, give them this card. And this card has this main central clearinghouse for each state.
Yeah. Well, if Facebook can do it, you'd think that we could do this for our vets, where we have a clearinghouse, a place to network, a place to have the information that they can get that they need. I think that's a fantastic idea, because not knowing the desperation some of our soldiers feel when they come back. I mean, you could see where they feel totally abandoned.
They feel like, why did I do this?
Yeah.
They know they did it for themselves and their families, but they look around, they see some of the ignorance going on, and they're thinking, yeah, they have no idea. They're talking about wanting to be a socialist country. They haven't been in one. They don't know anything about it.
Right.
They're talking about, freedom this, freedom that. I've been in countries where you couldn't even take a picture. Literally, you cannot take a camera and take a picture.
Yeah.
That happened to me once. I was TDY, temporary duty assignment, with this technical sergeant. He was taking pictures, and next thing we knew, we were getting jacked up. Our heads were bounced off the wall. They were getting us into position and checking us and getting ready to cuff us. And when some MPs come up and said, hey, these guys are temporary. They don't know the rules. And in the end, instead of going to jail, it only cost us the tech sergeant's film. So we were very fortunate.
Yeah.
But, there are places like that. They don't care that you're American military. They'll throw you under the jail with everybody else.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And that's one of the things we have to live with when we're, away from home.
Right. And you give up your freedom, and you put yourself in the line of danger that a lot of people would not do. And frankly, that's heroic. It's a major sacrifice, and America owes our veterans, and they should be a priority. We're talking with Joerob of Veteran Partners of Texas on the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. I'm Shelley Johnson here with Tom Kelly. We've got some more great information from Joerob and his organization and what veterans can see in terms of help. This is a wonderful organization. Please stay tuned for more coming up.
This blog on TNCRadio.LIVE is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. 6 safety tips for truck driving in hot weather. Driving in the heat can create dangerous situations for truck drivers. Drivers need to take specific precautions before hitting the road in extreme heat. With the incoming heat wave dubbed as a heat dome by the National Weather Service, drivers need to be aware of how to safely drive in these weather conditions. Follow our 6 safety tips for truck driving in hot weather. Every truck driver needs to complete a pre-trip inspection before driving, especially in hot weather. Check tires. Heat can have a huge effect on your tires. As the temperature increases, so does the air pressure in your tires. During the hottest months of the year, it's important to frequently check your tire pressure. Frequently checking on your tires can save you from a blowout. To get an accurate measurement, wait for your tires to cool down before checking the pressure. The heat and friction from the road cause your tires to warm up, which will cause a rise in tire pressure. Also, don't be afraid to take a break every couple of hours to let your tires cool down. While traveling in the summer months, you may want to give yourself some extra time to stop and check on your tires. Protect your engine. Not only should you protect yourself from the heat this summer, but you should also protect your engine. One way to keep your engine from overheating is to frequently check the engine oil. The oil keeps the engine cool and keeps the parts running smoothly. Engine coolant is just as important as engine oil. Coolant helps prevent the engine from overheating in extremely hot temperatures. Keep an eye on the coolant temperature gauge while driving. If the gauge goes above the safe temperature, Pull over and see what's going on. Failing to assess the situation could lead to engine failure. Also, make sure to check for leaks in the hoses. A cracked hose could lead to engine failure. Tips to protect yourself from hot weather. It's just as important to protect yourself during extremely hot weather. Follow these steps to keep yourself cool and safe during these hot months. Stock up on water. As the temperature increases, you need to increase your water intake. Make sure to always have water in your truck. You never know when you might get stuck in traffic or break down on the side of the road. Wear sunscreen. Many truck drivers forget this step. Even when you're in your truck, you're still exposed to the harmful UVA rays from the sun. Make sure to put sunscreen on before hitting the road. Wear light-colored clothes. Light-colored clothing reflects light, and dark-colored clothing absorbs it. Wearing light-colored, loose-fitting clothes helps you stay cooler and more comfortable on the road. And be sure to check out our blog, 6 Safety Tips for Truck Driving While Driving in the Rain. This blog on TNCRadio.LIVE was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork. Enjoy the best in trucker-style music and comedy. Weeknights starting at 6 p.m. Central, 7 Eastern, right here on TNCRadio.LIVE.
This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. I'm Shelley Johnson with my co-host Tom Kelly. Joe Robert of Veteran Partners of Texas is with us today, and we've been talking about many of the different needs that their organization serves for veterans. Joe, you were talking earlier in one of our earlier segments about moral injury, which is a term I had not actually heard about until today. And this can happen to our veterans after a traumatic event. You said you wanted to elaborate more on that.
Well, I think that this is something that suffered quietly. A lot of people aren't sure, the people who experience aren't always sure what it is. I gave you one example. Let me give you another one. Young man joins the military. He becomes a nurse. Oh, joy. He's going to Germany to a hospital. What this 19-year-old did not understand is that that's the hospital where they send the worst physical cases from Iraq and Afghanistan. And he's dealing, his third day on the job, he's dealing with someone who had very severe burns to the point where you could touch their skin and their skin pulled away from the bone.
Wow. Yeah.
So this wasn't a trauma he suffered, but this is an experience he's had that, morally, he's having trouble dealing with it.
Sure.
And there's so many things happening like that over there. And so many people, our veterans, I'm going to say probably a great number of our veteran truck drivers have experienced this and just were never really aware of how to identify it.
Right.
And it's become so widespread. Like I mentioned earlier, the VA and different agencies are trying to do more towards this. Go back to an old war movie. Had Sean Penn and a couple others in it. And it's in Vietnam. And 3 of the guys decide to rape this young girl. And one guy doesn't do it. Well, the one guy that had the worst feelings from it, had the hardest time dealing with it, was the one guy who would not participate and actually tried to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't suffer a traumatic event. But he knew when happened, he was right there. He tried to stop something from happening.
Right.
And veterans are saying, I don't know what it is I'm feeling. I don't understand why I feel what I do. And that, and they need someone to talk to. They need someone to say, hey, brother, you tell me what you're comfortable telling me. And if you're not comfortable telling me a whole lot, then we will, we can just continue to visit until you are.
Right. So someone feeling this way can go to your organization and find answers and some consolation and comfort.
Yeah, we try to help them find a little peace with it.
Mm-hmm.
How bad, how long it's been, so forth. There's a number of factors in just what happens. But too often people are thinking, like you said, they're feeling guilty.
Right. Yeah.
Because they didn't stop something, or they saw this and there was nothing that I could do to prevent this. How am I supposed to react? I don't know this. And they're needing somebody just to be able to visit with. I visited with an individual who had just a terrible moral injury. And he was telling me, he said, I don't know what to do. I'm a mama's boy. I have told my mother everything in my life, but I can't tell her this.
Right. Because it's too shocking.
Yeah. He said, if I told my mother this, she'd never get over it.
Sure. It goes against everything you've been taught, the horrors of war. And it's really awful. And I don't think that a lot of civilians understand that. And that's where we really need to have the resources for our veterans. We have under 2 minutes here, Joe. How do people get a hold of your organization?
Well, we have a phone number that is 254-237-9747. And we check it regularly for messages, and then we'll get back to you. We have a Facebook page. It is Peer, P-E-E-R, Support 171.
And you have a website too, correct?
Yes. VeteranPartnersOfTexas.org.
And we'll put links for all of this too in our on our homepage as well, so people will be able to reach it from our page. So if you're driving and you don't have time to write all this down, just come to the TNCRadio.LIVE page, and it'll be there within the next 10-15 minutes.
And if they'll reach out, especially leave me a phone number, then I'll call them back. It might be sometime that there's somebody there on the road, they've got to keep moving, but they just got to get something off their chest. We can do it by phone.
What you're doing is absolutely wonderful, Joe. And I'm so very glad that we could let people know that you're out here. Veteran Partners of Texas, here on TNCRadio.LIVE. Definitely, if you want to help the organization, if you need help from the organization, reach out. They're there for our veterans. Again, Veteran Partners of Texas. We've been speaking with Joerob here on TNCRadio.LIVE. We've got the Evening Surge coming up. Definitely stay tuned for more right here.
This blog on TNCRadio.LIVE is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. 4 things to consider before becoming a hazmat tanker driver. The demand for truck drivers is higher than ever. There are many different types of truck driving jobs. Whether you're a new driver or if you already have a couple of years' experience, it's never a bad idea to get new skills and endorsements. Hazmat tanker jobs are one of the many truck driving jobs. If you're considering becoming a hazmat tanker truck driver, here's some things you should know. What is a hazmat tanker? Hazmat truck drivers haul, deliver, and dispose of hazardous materials. Hazardous material can include things like gases, explosives, corrosive chemicals, poisons, and radioactive materials. Hazmat tanker drivers are not limited to hauling only hazardous material. They can also drive a non-hazardous tanker. Have the right requirements. Becoming a certified hazmat tanker driver will require you to add specific endorsements to your already existing CDL. You'll have to undergo training that is specifically designed for transporting and handling hazardous materials. After obtaining your CDL, you'll have to go through a background check and complete the application requirements. The application requires ID proof of being at least 21 years old, proof of citizenship or legal residence, a medical exam and eye exam. You must pass the hazmat knowledge test too. It's more stressful. Regardless of what you're hauling, being a truck driver is a stressful job. Safety is a top priority for truck drivers, especially for hazmat tanker drivers. Hauling hazardous material means that accidents or spills are much more severe. Hazmat tanker drivers are under much more stress and caution than drivers that haul non-hazardous material. Drivers need to be extra careful and need to plan their routes before driving. It requires a lot of skill. Truck driving is a difficult career and it's not for everyone. Being a truck driver already requires a lot of skill. For hazmat tanker drivers, there are specific skills that you'll need in order to be successful. Aside from the technical skills, hazmat tankers should also have personal skills. Some personal skills include being punctual, detail-oriented, and patient. These skills will make you a better driver in the long run. You make more money. Hazmat tanker drivers make more money on average. This is because more experience and skills required to haul hazardous loads. According to Salary.com, the average salary for a hazmat tanker driver in the United States is just over $63,000 a year, but the average salary range TNCRadio.LIVE, your commercial driver navigation station.
Hi, this is Tom Kelly, managing partner of Mexia LLC, doing business as TNCRadio.LIVE. The website TNCRadio.LIVE and any content or podcast related to the website are copyrights of Mexia LLC, copyright 2021. All rights reserved. Any redistribution or reproduction of all or any part of the contents in any form is prohibited other than the following. We welcome you to download and play the publicly available podcast and share with others for personal use. Please acknowledge TNCRadio.LIVE as the source of the material. You may not, except with our express written permission, distribute or commercially exploit the content. And while we endeavor to keep the information up to date and correct, we make no representations or warranties of any kind expressed or implied about the completeness, accuracy, reliability, suitability, or availability with respect to the website, the podcast, or the information, products, services, or related graphics contained on the website or podcast for any purpose. Any reliance you place on such information is therefore strictly at your own risk. For additional information, including details regarding monetization of this podcast, send email to podcasts@tncradio.live.